Vietnam's history is a testament to the enduring spirit of resistance and resilience. Today, we're exploring Vietnam's long and storied struggle against powerful foreign influences, from centuries of Chinese domination to French colonial rule and a fierce conflict with the United States during the Vietnam War. This video delves into the pivotal moments that shaped Vietnam's national identity and forged its path to independence. Whether you're intrigued by military history or the strength of a nation that has overcome immense challenges, join us as we uncover the courageous story of Vietnam's fight for sovereignty and its rise on the global stage. Today, we will talk about history of Vietnam. So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button. Also subscribe to my channel. Vietnam's history is a story of resilience and unyielding spirit. For over 1,000 years, this nation has fought off some of the world's most powerful empires, from ancient China to colonial France and finally, the United States in one of the most contentious conflicts of the 20th century. This is a tale of a small nation's relentless fight to preserve its identity and sovereignty against overwhelming odds. Stick with us as we journey through Vietnam's tumultuous past, from ancient resistance movements to the modern struggle for independence. By the end of this video, you'll understand how Vietnam's history of defiance has shaped the resilient nation we know today. 1. Ancient resistance against Chinese domination. Vietnam's history of resistance began with its centuries-long struggle against Chinese domination. Starting around 111 BCE, Vietnam was absorbed into the Han Dynasty's vast empire, marking the beginning of nearly 1,000 years of Chinese control. The Vietnamese people, however, never fully accepted this foreign rule. Throughout this period, they maintained their distinct cultural identity and repeatedly rose up against their Chinese overlords. One of the most notable early revolts was led by the Trung sisters in 40 CE. These two heroic sisters, Trung Trac and Trung Nai, are celebrated in Vietnamese history for leading a successful uprising against the Chinese Han Dynasty. Although their reign was short-lived, lasting only 3 years, their courage and determination inspired future generations of Vietnamese to continue resisting foreign domination. In 939 CE, after centuries of intermittent rebellions, Vietnam finally gained independence from China following the decisive Battle of Bac Dang. Led by General Gil Quyen, the Vietnamese forces lured the Chinese fleet into a trap along the Bac Dang River, using hidden stakes to impale the enemy ships as the tide receded. This victory marked the end of a millennium of Chinese control and the beginning of Vietnam's independent dynastic era. 2. French colonial rule and the struggle for independence. In the 19th century, Vietnam faced a new foreign threat: European colonialism. By the 1850s, France had begun to establish control over Vietnam, along with the neighboring regions of Laos and Cambodia, forming French Indochina. The French imposed harsh colonial rule, exploiting Vietnam's resources and imposing their culture on the Vietnamese people. Under French control, the Vietnamese economy was reorganized to benefit the colonial power. Traditional agriculture was disrupted, and large areas were converted to plantations producing rice, rubber, and other cash crops for export. The Vietnamese people were subjected to heavy taxation and forced labor, leading to widespread poverty and social unrest. The French also sought to suppress Vietnamese culture and promote French language and customs. However, these efforts only fueled resentment among the Vietnamese, who saw their national identity under threat once again. In the early 20th century, resistance to French rule began to take shape. Nationalist movements, inspired by the global wave of anti-colonial sentiment, started to emerge. Among the most significant leaders of this period was Ho Chi Minh, a revolutionary who would become the face of Vietnam's struggle for independence. Ho Chi Minh founded the Viet Minh, a coalition of communist and nationalist forces, in 1941 to fight for Vietnam's liberation. World War II provided an opportunity for the Vietnamese independence movement to gain momentum. With France weakened by the German occupation, Japan took control of Vietnam during the war. However, after Japan's defeat in 1945, the Viet Minh quickly moved to fill the power vacuum, declaring Vietnam's independence in September of that year. 3. The Vietnam War, resistance against American intervention. The Vietnam War, also known as the Second Indochina War, was a defining conflict of the Cold War era. It pitted the communist government of North Vietnam and its allies in South Vietnam, known as the Viet Cong, against the government of South Vietnam, supported by the United States and other anti-communist nations. This war would become one of the longest and most controversial conflicts in American history. The origins of the Vietnam War lied in the Cold War tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. The US, fearing the spread of communism in Southeast Asia, supported the South Vietnamese government in its fight against the North. This conflict escalated into full-scale war in the 1960s, with the US deploying hundreds of thousands of troops to Vietnam. Despite the overwhelming military power of the United States, the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces proved to be formidable opponents. They employed guerrilla tactics, making use of the dense jungles and difficult terrain to carry out surprise attacks and ambushes. The resilience and determination of the Vietnamese fighters were crucial to their ability to withstand the might of the US military. 4. Post-war Vietnam, rebuilding and modernization. After the Vietnam War, the country faced the monumental task of rebuilding a nation ravaged by decades of conflict. The post-war years were marked by economic difficulties, international isolation, and continued struggles to recover from the war's devastation. In the late 1980s, Vietnam began to implement economic reforms known as Doi Moi renovation, shifting from a centrally planned economy to a socialist-oriented market economy. These reforms led to significant economic growth, improved living standards, and increased integration into the global economy. Vietnam's history is a powerful testament to the strength and determination of its people. From the ancient struggles against Chinese domination to the fight for independence from French and American influences, Vietnam has consistently demonstrated an unyielding commitment to its sovereignty and cultural identity. The lessons learned from these centuries of resistance have shaped Vietnam into the resilient and dynamic nation it is today. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.